Oh, the story's been 5 years in the making, and I finally get to tell it. Let's get into this week's episode of The Pit. First and foremost, the final week of the LCS is upon us. And the only teams that we know, like, generally what's going to happen with them come playoffs are Team Liquid, Cloud9, and FlyQuest. Cloud9 and FlyQuest still competing for that second seed. Team Liquid trying to still lock their first seed, but they play NRG. Should be fine. But the bottom of the standings, the bottom of the table is a mess right now. But it can all be resolved in one single game. So let's go through each team. Starting with Shopify. First and foremost, they have to 2-0. If 100 Thieves takes a single game off of them, their season is done. The year is over. There's no coming back. Now, once they go 2-0, there's a myriad of different things that can happen, mostly with tiebreakers. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to waste all that much time given that I don't think that'll happen. I'll preview the individual matchup later, but that's all you need to know. They have to 2-0, and then it's in the hands of the gods from there. 400 Thieves, same thing. Win a single game. You are in playoffs no matter what. Now, this is where things get interesting because anybody from NRG to Dignitas can technically finish as high as 4th. And the way that playoffs works, 4 will play 5, and FlyQuest, the assumed 3 seed, or maybe it's Cloud9, will play 6. So you want to avoid that 6 and try and get that 4-5, who will then likely go on to play Team Liquid, but that's a problem for a different day that you worry about. For now, you want the best possible matchup going into playoffs. And for 100 Thieves, they can actually finish as high as 4th. They're only one game behind Dignitas with the same record. And while Dignitas plays Immortals and the odds of them dropping all that lower, slim to none, you never know with Immortals not caring. Or if they 2-1 and they get in, but NRG and Dignitas both have really good weeks, they could be as low as 6 and then playing either FlyQuest or C9. For NRG, weirdly enough, they're the biggest 100 of these fans this weekend because they are sitting with the worst game record of all the crews that have 2 series wins. Yeah, they're assumedly going to get 2-0'd by Team Liquid, so they are praying to every god in its existence that 100 Thieves is able to win just one game so that they can get in the playoffs and go to best of 5s. So let's get into this week's matchups, starting with Team Liquid versus NRG. Everybody should be picking TL. This is the series that would cement them a lossless regular season. It doesn't stack up all that well in history, if I'm being honest with you, purely because the lack of number of series, only 7 of them. I'm sorry, it doesn't compare. And anybody with common sense, when looking at league history, will not count this the same as like Fnatic's 18-0 undefeated season, because Team Liquid has lost games during that period. You wouldn't compare it to, like, if I don't think a team ever did go undefeated in best of 3s back in the old days, but like same thing. It was double round robin best of 3. That means so much more. But regardless, good luck, NRG. I mean, if you want to try and like theory craft a way for them to win this series, it would be through Palafox finally stepping up and getting back to his form last year alongside Contracts and the 2 of them taking over, because I think even though APA has looked like the best mid laner in the league, I do think Palafox at his peak can compete with him, maybe be a little bit better. And Contracts, when he's on form, is better than Umpty. Like, plain and simple, but he is not on form right now. So if you can get the 2 of them to have an insane weekend and then bot and top lane hold on, fine. But Impact's about to smack the shit out of Dokla. So good luck there. I don't envy the position they're in. 100 Thieves versus Shopify. Just if you don't know, I'm doing a versus battle or a blind pick thing against their #1 fan in Cloud Sicky. I think it'll be up on his YouTube. I don't think I'm going to post it on mine, but I'll post like some short form clips that direct people over to like his channels that it can promote his stuff. But the thing I do want to call out is that Quid is actually performing incredibly well right now. He's currently 2nd place on the NA ladder, only behind Surdy, and is regaining his form from winter or spring that people wanted to call out that, yeah, he's kind of fallen off since then. He's improving. And then River is River. I automatically think he's better than Boogie in every situation. Sniper versus FakeOff. We saw how that went last year. I get that people are going to be a little bit higher on FakeOff coming into this series after what he was able to do to Blippo. But if there's one thing that we know about FakeOff is that every time that he shows glimmers of hope, he immediately lets down after that. So I'm not counting on him to bounce back. And then bot lane for 100 Thieves. I mean, maybe it was just the honeymoon of week 1, but assuming they can neutralize what would arguably be seen as like the best part of Shopify and Bvoy, then yeah, they're fine. Should be an easy 100 Thieves win, if I'm being honest. Probably the most important matchup of the weekend is actually going to be FlyQuest versus C9. A battle to see, yeah, is FlyQuest actually the real deal, or is C9 and TL truly just a level of their own above everybody else? And my eyes go straight to the top lane. Thanatos has been able to get leads on literally everybody, but impact last week. And the biggest question for C9 was what happens when they can't get these leads that they were able to get against the bottom teams, or like the teams below TL and FlyQuest. And the answer was they wouldn't be able to win it. They were reliant on catching the throws of other people and other teams, because we saw Cloud9 go down against other people during the regular season. And what happened when TL learned from that mistake after game 1, when they cleaned up some of the problems that they had? They closed out the rest of the series pretty well and established themselves as the clear best team in the league. And for C9, it does leave this resounding question that we all asked coming into last week of what happens if you go even? And what happens if you don't throw in mid-game? Like, is Cloud9 actually being proactive enough to win games at that point if you're not getting significant early advantages? And the answer was no. So going into this week, I'm looking at Bwipo. He had a bad week against Fake God, but I'm fully expecting him to rebound as he typically does. And if he does and shuts down Thanatos, JoJo better get a lead against Quad. Jesus, I'm going to mess that up 20 more times. Quad, or you need Berserker and Vulcan to get the better of Busio and Masu, which I think the FlyQuest bot lane honestly has improved a lot from last split. So I don't think they're going to be able to get that same lead. So this is going to be a really close match, like a really, really close one. And I'm actually thinking that I might lean towards FlyQuest a little bit, ever so slightly in this one. But I do want to see C9 prove themselves. I want to see C9 learn from last week's loss and fix some of the holes there and be a little bit more proactive. If they can do that, then maybe they can step up to challenge TL at the end of the year. But if they don't show me that they learned from last week's mistakes, yeah, this is going to be a problem. As for the final series of the weekend, Dignitas and Immortals. For Dig, I actually think this is going to be interesting because this is their final week to kind of prep and get ready for playoffs and see if they can make a run. This team, again, is basically brand new this split, so it's not like they've had the most amount of time relative to everybody else, but we're getting to that point where if they can start clicking and start winning some games, then it's fine. They dropped the ball against Shopify, but they were able to pick it back up last weekend. So if they can keep building momentum, then you're good. You want to see Sven start to get back on form. You need to see Spica do more in these games. Jensen is very much Jensen, and Licorice, well, if you're Immortals, you don't give him Poppy. But given that Immortals has nothing to play for, it throws a curveball into all this. They could really try their hearts out and maybe click because the pressure's off, as we've seen many teams do in the past, or they could drop the ball and just ran over entirely. But what this past weekend meant, and what 100 Thieves beating Immortals meant, is that IMT is knocked out of playoffs, and they continue the fact that they have never once had a winning season in the LCS. Never above a 500 record, because boy, have I been waiting to tell this story. I will add a precursor to this, to Immortals fans, the players of Immortals, and the lower to mid-level staff that obviously have no control over decisions, over things that happen with the brand itself. This is not towards you. If anything, this is a compassion and kind of not love letter. This is very much a hate letter. I hope you were able to resonate with some of what I'm saying and aggravation towards the people that screwed over your brand. So, fun fact. I was actually banned from one Discord in my entire life, to my knowledge. Maybe I've been banned from others, and I don't know if I'm unbanned at this point. But it's the Immortals Discord. Because if you don't know the history, Immortals bought Optic's spot in the LCS, and I've been a diehard Greenwall fan since 2013. When trying to figure out whether I was going to become an Immortals fan and follow the remaining pieces of Optic or go elsewhere, I joined the Immortals Discord, as a lot of us who were Optic fans did, because we wanted to give it a chance. Like, everybody was on the same page, like, you know, maybe they'll keep some of the pieces and we go from there. And immediately there were problems. Within like a day or two, like, some of the Immortals fans were picking fights with us because we were kind of high on Meteos, because this was back whenever Meteos and Dardoch were on the Optic roster, and they were like, keep Dardoch, get rid of Meteos. Meteos is trash. Dardoch should have been starting. It's like, we literally have clips of Meteos saying that he was crushing Dardoch's ass in scrims every single time, and Dardoch was like, yeah, he was kicking my ass, but you're going to sit here and tell me that Dardoch was better? Okay, sure. But the chopping point came whenever I brought up the fact that Immortals brand in 2019 is not what it was whenever they left the LCS in 2017, and their capital problems that were brought on by Noah Winston, and the fact that they had so many different investors that were kind of pulling the brand and like different, like, you had no identity to what Immortals was other than this org that paid a stupid amount of money for good players during a time in which people were not overpaying. So whenever you're now in an era where everybody else is overpaying, what advantage do you have? What brand identity do you have? Oh, you have the Brazilian side with MIBR. That doesn't translate to North America. If anything, you might be better off keeping the Optic name on there, which I'm glad they didn't do, because they did that with Call of Duty, and I'm still sad to this day that the Immortals gaming crew, or whatever the fuck their corporate thing is, was ever once tied to Optic in any way, shape, or form. 6 years later, look how Optic's doing. Look at how Immortals is doing. That's all you need to know. But yeah, the mods ended up banning me from that Discord, which immediately sealed, like, I already knew I wasn't going to be a fan of Immortals by that point, but it was like, yeah, screw you guys. Like, the fans were so delusional at that point, and so were like some of the people that were like making decisions, that it just didn't click in my mind of like, what identity do you have? Maybe you can prove me wrong over the next 5 years and prove that you know what, this brand that you had before was something that's worth having in the LCS, and you can bring value to the league more than Optic could due to our piss poor management of everything being structured on the, or fractured under the infinite esports days under Chris Chaney and crew. But boy, did you prove me right. Immortals in their last 5 years has been the single worst stain on the LCS that we have ever seen. An organization that at an upper management level has no directive at all on what they want from their brand other than just being in the LCS. They have no ability on how to build a fan base, on how to grow fans, on how to maintain a roster, as seen by the fact that they fire their coach one split in after promising him 2 years to rebuild everything. And on top of that, here's the kicker, and it's my favorite thing. Their latest YouTube video, okay, is under a minute, 10 seconds of which is end screen, 10 seconds of which is a full just progressive flow thing on it, and it has no point but as an advertisement. One, why is that not a short? First and foremost, anything under 60 seconds on YouTube should be a short. That should not be a video. But clearly it's a video because it's a deliverable for a progressive, because all this team is a fucking sellout. That's all this corporate structure is. So I hope every person that came into this brand from upper management milked this thing dry. You just took it, everything for what it's worth. Put this big progressive name on it, which meant jack shit, ruined everything. I hope all you enjoy the cash that you got from this, probably the little bit of elevated paychecks, because I want you out of esports forever. Anybody that touched this Immortals brand over the last 5 years in terms of like people that actually make decisions on like the brand's future, none of y'all should ever be in esports again. You never got it. You don't, and you did a disservice to every single fan that actually was able to stay with Immortals over the past 5 years. You all, the fans, got screwed over by this group. You should be so mad at what they've done to your brand. Not that I necessarily agree that it had much value coming in the first place, but you had a golden opportunity to build something and they did nothing. This is why you don't bring back brands unless there's actually a reason to bring them back and they actually carry weight this time. Like if Optic were to come back under the guise of Scump and Hex, that'd be different than just bringing back the Optic brand for the sake of bringing them back, and under the assumption that the players would do content, the team would do content that would interact with the Optic brand beyond that you bring back. But you don't just slap a logo on and be like, hey, we're back, and think it's gonna work, because it freaking doesn't. So to whoever was the person that banned me from the Immortals Discord back when, suck it. There is no chance that this team is going to be in the LCS next year. If they are, somebody at Riot really needs to look in the damn mirror before making this decision, because you're adding just as big of a stain onto the LCS's legacy if you keep this brand in the league for any longer than it needs to be, which should be one more week of games, and that's it. Again, commiserations to anybody that's losing their job and to the players that have had to deal with this organization over the years. And for the fans, you got screwed. I hope you find a better home elsewhere, and I pray to God you are still not supporting Immortals and their upper management after all the decisions that have been made here. Again, that's not on the day-to-day people, like the content people and the crew that like sent me like their jersey a few weeks ago. I know y'all are trying your best and you're trying to do outreach with the community, but the people that are above you set you up for failure, and you know that. You've done the best that you can with the situation. Don't take it too hard. I think that's pretty much everything for this week's The Pit. I know I really went off on Immortals on this. I've been waiting for this one for quite a long period of time, but I think we previewed all the matches. We didn't really talk about the week prior because I don't think it's really much relevant by the time this Friday came around. Like, there's really not much the past weeks kind of do, with the exception of the 100 Thieves versus Shopify series. And other than that, we're just waiting for Impact to be crowned MVP. So that's kind of just it. So thank you to everybody for tuning in. I will catch you on next week's episode of The Pit as we preview playoffs, depending on who makes it. And hopefully 100 Thieves doesn't miss it. And I don't have to eat my words, but we'll see. See you later.